Live on WFLA Now. This is Run for Fun with running enthusiast Leigh Spann.
Well, welcome back to the WFLA Now Stream Center for this week's episode of Run for Fun with Leigh Spann. As you can see, hey, we got ourselves some guests in the house today.
It's a party.
We're here to discuss, that awesome topic of running form and analysis. So I'm the host, Leigh Spann. I wanted to create this show, as we've mentioned, to sort of spread the love of running. And the only way to do that, to make it fun, is to do it correctly. Because when it hurts, it ain't fun anymore. So we're going to try to make sure that everyone is running correctly so that it feels a little more enjoyable and a little more fun. So you see that we have that full panel with us today. Maria Williams, local running coach. We have Cody Angell, the owner of St. Pete Running Company store, and he's going to be analyzing Nick, our WFLA producer, Nick Santana's running gait today. So if you've been following us, of course, Nick has agreed he knew exactly what he was agreeing to let us train him for a 5K in a few weeks and do a training that's correctly so that he is full and ready when he lands up at that start line. Coach Maria is helping him do that, and today, as I mentioned, Cody is here to help him analyze his gait and get him the right shoes. Now, just real quick, I also wanted to say that you can follow along with Nick and his training by joining our virtual running group. Get some virtual love from other
we're up to
runners.
66.
I know we got 66 virtual runners. So how to join this? Before we get into anything else, we want to spread the love. And Nick will tell you that, boy, when people comment on your runs, you feel a little bit more of that love. And so this is a Strava group. So Strava is a free app. You download it, and then when you go for a run, and you upload your runs, and you want to look for the groups, and then in the groups, go to the clubs and look for WFLA Run for Fun. And so we're so excited about the 66 folks who have already joined. And we had a comment from the Strava group from Jules Lovejoy about this week's workout. Because again, Maria is posting what she is challenging Nick with each week. And she said that was fun because we did
Hill repeats
this week. So Jules thought it was fun. Nick, what say you?
It was difficult. Mm-hmm. It was a beautiful run though. I was going right over the Bel Air Bridge, and the sun was setting, but the sweat was also dripping, and I was out of breath. But it felt good. It felt really nice after that run. So it was good.
I'm glad you liked it. What did it feel like pushing yourself like that?
I kind of got a second wind like after the third. When I said the first few, I was like, okay, this is difficult. This is tough, right? But I just feel like I caught like I guess like a runner's high. I don't know. Like it felt good. I felt invigorated. I was
that
doing
means
well,
you paced it correctly.
Yeah, and I wasn't pushing too. I was leaning forward, as you said, and I wasn't going too hard with some of them, so I can at least make it through with all the six because I wanted to make it through. And
that's perfect.
So Maria, remind everyone what his challenge was, or what his plan was this week. He had to do
his
3
challenge.
runs.
His challenge was to do 2 20-minute run walk, easy, and then 1 hill repeat, which he did 6 times 1 minute. Mm-hmm. Which this week's workout, we're going to keep everything the same, except we're going to add 2 more hill repeats. So we're going to do 8 this week.
Wait, so real quick, let me just get this. Yeah. So 1 minute up, is it like right? So 1 minute up the hill.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
then you walk back down, and then you're going to do 8. You did 6 last week, so we're going to do 8 this week.
Okay. And on the walk back down, is it a walk minute or is it like walk back down?
Nope, just walk down to where you started.
Well, that's where I went wrong.
And that's okay.
Okay.
You walk
because I got to the top of the hill. I'm like, okay, I had to go back down.
Yeah.
The other side of the hill.
Yeah. No, you can do it. There's no really wrong on that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it was still a good workout.
Yeah. We're just going to do 8 this time.
Okay, 8.
Okay.
It was good. Yeah. I'm in.
Call that type 2 fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun later on.
Exactly. Yeah. In the moment, it's not. Yeah.
And now you get to do 2 more of those, so even more fun at the end, right?
I'm like the luckiest guy in
so
Tampa
lucky.
Bay. I'll tell you.
I mean, Nick, Jules Lovejoy thought it was fun.
It was.
Okay.
It was great. It was great, especially where you run. The location adds to the experience. So that's definitely something you should go look out for.
And you showed us last week, you showed us some of the shoes that you were wearing, and you asked if they were fine. And so that kind of led us into okay, those are fine to start with.
And honestly, when I saw the shoes, I was like, oh, okay, well, those will work for now. And we had a plan. We had a plan this week to talk about comparison, and then after the show, I was like, oh no, we got to address the shoe thing
After the
next
shoes
week.
that I was showing, I don't even want to hold those old shoes up to the ones I have.
Yeah,
now.
no, we're gonna get rid of those old shoes.
Yeah, so that's why we brought in Cody. Where this is he opened an entire running store to make people love running, right, Cody? Like, what do you tell people when they come in about your love of running?
Yeah, so it's literally about breaking down barriers. A lot of people are intimidated by running and coming into a running store. So the whole thing is we're here to help. We can get you started, and we can make what could be a difficult thing a lot easier by helping you with the right gear and obviously the right advice.
And Nick, before we show the video, what did you think of the gait analysis today?
I thought Cody was great. He's a shoe magician. He came in. He knew exactly what he was looking for, and yeah, I didn't know what to expect at first. We were outside. I mean, wait till you see the video, guys. It's kind of fun. If you're on YouTube, you have to watch it.
So this is just right outside of our TV station. We just shot this using our iPhones today. So Nick said, I don't have any running clothes.
Fresh in the work clothes. Yep.
So Cody, what do you do first? What's going on right now?
Okay, so it's a fit process we call Stride Smart, and basically it starts with understanding what his goals are, and then what he's going to be doing with his shoes, if it's walking, running, standing on your feet all day at work, and then we perform what I would say is a functional movements. So you see here, 2-legged squats, and then there will even be 1-legged squat, which is a big indicator for how you're going to run, because simply put, running is a whole lot of 1-legged squats, right? You squat on your left leg and then jump to the other one. So we like to see his alignment and his mechanics while he does these, and then after that, we'll have him run in some shoes to actually see how the shoes look. And I gotta say, his squat was really good. And I'm not just saying that because he's sitting next to me.
Now, we see a lot of squats
Yeah,
at St. Pete.
Some people's mechanics look better than others, and there's no right or wrong way to run. Like, imagine if I said, hey, can I have your autograph? Which I might ask for after the show.
I mean, after the 5K, when I get that medal.
Yeah, and I wouldn't critique it and say, oh, you failed this. Like, it's your signature.
Yeah.
Same thing with the runner's stride, but it is important to point out there's a sliding scale from less efficient up to more efficient, and yours is already quite good. I mean, cars were slowing down to look at this guy.
Oh, yeah,
run
totally.
down the sidewalk.
Totally.
So what is this piece of equipment that you're showing Nick now?
Simply, it's like a thermal scan of his foot. So it tells you, kind of like being in the sand at the beach, you'll see if the person has high arches or like kind of the Fred Flintstone flat feet or medium. And Nick was somewhere in the middle. So I would call this a medium arch.
Okay.
Kind of cool outside, so it doesn't give us like the most vivid, bright image. But here in a moment, you'll be able to see, especially on his right foot, where there's a curve through the midfoot. And that gives us a lot of orientation as to what shape of shoes this person would do well in. So if you can see there, you see the arch?
Okay, yeah, that is a nice high arch.
Yeah, so not bad.
Yeah, good. All right, so but then you had to go and you had to actually run for Cody.
Yes.
And what was that? Did that feel? How did that feel? I guess
It felt great. Well, so yeah, we tried out the Hokas, right? Is that
Yes.
what they're called? Yeah, and they felt amazing. Feels like walking on a cloud, well, running on a cloud. It was awesome. So,
And then while he was running, we were looking for a few things, but the first one we like to look for is level belt line. So imagine they're invisible, but all you can see is a belt that the person's wearing, and it should stay level. It shouldn't be drooping to the side. So no salsa dancing. We're running, right, Maria?
Yeah.
And then the other thing Maria and I talked about a lot over the years is a runner's cadence. So imagine you're jumping rope, and about that cadence, about the rate of which your feet hit the ground, that's kind of what it should be like with running. And I would almost say most people we've seen over the years, their cadence is a little bit too slow, like they need
Yeah,
to.
usually in the 160s usually.
Yeah.
and
We want it to be like between 170 and 180.
and that's steps per minute.
Okay.
So that's you want to about 180 steps a minute. The only way to do that, and we'll talk more about that, is shorter steps. If you're
shorter
leaping, you're
steps,
not going to
yeah.
get that many steps
I
into
see.
each minute. So it changes the way you run, but it makes it a whole lot more efficient.
Yeah. And then if you see here, I'm squeezing the toe box of his shoe. The front's called the toe box. We want his shoes to be a little too big. So those of you guys listening at home, your running shoes should be bigger than your dress shoes. And often we've seen a disaster if they're not, because they'll come into our store with 10 toes and 8 toenails.
Yeah.
Yep, that's happened to me.
And I would say 90% of the people that we fit are wearing smaller shoes than they should.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that?
Yeah, and they're like, I
almost-
swear,
Yeah.
I was a 7. And you're like, well, you were a 7. Like, but now you're not. Like,
Yeah.
our feet get bigger throughout life.
When I went
Also-
to
yeah.
9, I was really freaked out. But if you turn it upside down, it makes a 6. So then I feel like I.
Yeah.
What's the there's that I believe it was in Steel Magnolias. It was, I wear a 6, but a 7 feels so good I buy a 9.
Oh yeah, that's right. My dad told me I could water ski on my feet. So
Oh,
Oh man.
So you're actually, and when we're looking here at this while the video is playing.
here we go.
So you
There it
actually
is.
were recording him on an iPad.
yes, there's applications now that help us. So kind of like on TV when the sports analyst would draw a telestrator pin, you can do that. So you can look at his hips, you can look at his feet, or the angle of pronation at mid stance, which is when all the weight's coming down. And so we look at all these metrics in order to ascertain how he runs, and then we use that to pair him to the shoes that are best for him. So as I mentioned earlier outside, everybody's built different. We all have different goals, different strength, different weight, and we're running different events, and the shoes are all different. So my wife and I started a company where what we do is watch people run and help them pick out the shoes that are best for them specifically.
Because a lot of people ask me, what shoes do you wear, Leigh? As if they're going to go buy my shoes. I go, please don't.
Yeah.
Please don't listen. I mean, like, these are perfect for me. They may be the worst shoes for you. And so right there, you were saying that Nick actually has really good alignment as that foot is hitting the ground.
and it's not that surprising because he was a athlete in high school. So
Oh yeah.
typically, if
Did a
you
lot
were
of
an
running.
athlete growing up,
So that's
it's an advantage.
Yeah.
So that is a sort of a quick version of what people, Cody, can do, what you can do for people as they go into a running store. So as they're making this transition from, just having a pair of shoes that look cute to be, that are comfortable to actual running shoes. This is what they could go through and should go through before going on any sort of major running event.
They absolutely should go through it because 3 out of 4 runners are injured in a given year. And so you want to make sure you're wearing the right gear, and then also that someone who's knowledgeable about running is watching you do it and maybe could offer tips and advice on how to do it more efficiently. Now, he's the exception because, how can you improve on perfection? I don't know.
Nick Santana, the perfect runner. And that's probably why you actually have done it you're off and on throughout your life. Because
Exactly,
it
yeah.
didn't always hurt. Because, Maria, I'm sure you've heard people, if their alignment is off, they are in pain.
Yes, a lot of times.
Yeah. Well, and what I was telling Cody too is, my right knee, right, has been like a little irritating sometimes when I run, and I think it's because of a hard shoe. So every time I hit that pavement, it would kind of jerk it in a certain way that would just like halfway through the run.
Yeah.
So, but I'll be fine. Like
We're gonna keep an eye
It's
on
not. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But
So-
Lee looks a little concerned.
No,
there.
I'm not. I was just.
I'm just here smiling ear to ear,
No, I was gonna say. So you picked out, Cody. You picked out a pair of shoes or 2 pairs of shoes for Nick. And what about those shoes worked for Nick versus maybe wouldn't work for someone else? So let's give people the option. So what kind of shoe worked for a person with alignment like Nick's, and then what would look if someone was out of alignment?
Because he had knee issues, we wanted to go with a more cushioned shoe. So think more foam under your foot. 10, 12 years ago, we were all in like thinner shoes. The trends were to go towards minimalism. Now we're realizing the value of more cushioned soles. So first off, it was cushion, and then his mechanics were what we call neutral. So a lot of straight angles when we watched him run. His feet weren't slapping to the inside. His knees stayed above his ankles when he ran. And so therefore we put him in a shoe that matches that. It corresponds. It's called a neutral shoe. And we tried different neutral shoes until he picked the ones that he liked the best. Now it's important to point out that it's a function-driven thing. It's not fashion.
Right.
We're not getting married in these. Doesn't matter what they look like because you're
Some
going to be
people
running so
get married
fast.
in their running
Yeah.
shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cody. Some people
Actually, a
do.
friend of mine did. That's right. And
That's
but-
when you really love running.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Exactly. So function is super important. And then we've seen studies where if you pick the shoes or footwear that are the most comfortable to you, there's a significantly lower injury rate. And at this point, that's the name of the game, is staying healthy and happy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what we're shooting for.
That's what we're shooting
Yeah.
for.
And we're having fun too while doing it.
And yes, we are having fun. Now, Nick, I went ahead and I did sign you up for the Gasparilla Distance Classic 5K,
I'm excited.
3rd weekend in February.
Yes. So
Only about
right after
14?
my birthday weekend. So I might have to, I don't know, slow it down a little bit that weekend before.
Okay, that's okay.
I have a bunch of friends coming in town. So.
And that's Maria can help you. Well, you'll work through that.
We can work
yeah.
through it. I can work through those things.
But
She's like, I'll find a way.
Yeah.
But you're all signed up now, so there's no turning back.
There's no turning back.
And you're going to have plenty of time to get ready. Now you're going to have, you know that your alignment is good, which that was actually, I've never actually seen you run, so I wasn't sure how it was going to be. So it looks like you're well on your way. Got you.
On the right path.
Got 8 hill repeats this week.
Woo.
And some new hokas to do them in.
Oh yeah, it's gonna feel great. I'm excited. I can't wait to try them out.
Why don't you want to pick them up and
Oh
show
yeah,
them?
yeah. Let's show them out. Show them off. So these are it.
Yep.
This is what I got here.
And Cody, talk about, again, hokas are known for their sort of cloud feel, correct?
Beautiful.
That's right. So it started as guys running down mountains. There's people in this world that'll run ultra marathons and a lot of mountains, and so they needed more cushioning. So they took a huge block of foam.
Do you want to show them? Yeah.
Yeah, and they shaved it out with a Dremel tool. And so the way this works, and as I was explaining earlier, you're not on top of this huge slab of foam. You're actually down in it. So think of it as a hot dog bun or a taco that kind of comes up and wraps around the foot to keep it straight. And then it's lightweight and super cushy. So the brand is called Hoka, Hoka. And even in today's digital world where you can get anything online, even in your underwear at 6 in the morning, running stores in the U.S. are thriving because this is something you have to go try it on. You can't just guess. And if you guess, you got maybe a 20% chance of getting it right. And in fact, your size was different than what you expected. You got a 12. Can you believe that?
Yeah, no, because in Nike, I'm usually like 11 or 11 and a half.
Yeah.
So differs.
But you do want it to be bigger than your, like, just normal
And I
shoes.
never knew that. I always thought that it had to be tighter. So when you run, you don't twist the ankle. You don't. It just feels like it should be tighter for some reason.
Until your feet start swelling.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
the toes start
true.
turning, and the nails.
And then Maria, like what
Digging in.
we see people often wear, I think if they grow up dancing or soccer or those sports that really like the footwear shrink wrap to their foot, which is the opposite. My daughter's a rock climber. They like them super tight. The
Yeah.
opposite of what requirements are for distance runners.
And that can cause so many problems
'Cause
down the road.
Once you lose one toenail, like I did, you go up 1/2 size. And when you run another marathon and you lose that, you go up another half
Yeah,
size.
yeah.
And just don't even look at the size on the box anymore.
look at it.
because that doesn't mean anything. And as Cody said, it's
And
not,
you do get used to it.
Yeah, it's not about fashion
Yeah.
either. If you like a shoe, you come in and that's the only color they have, and you hate it, just buy it anyway.
Yeah.
Just don't change shoes unless you go through this whole process again to get.
And actually, that's a good point. As you get more efficient, your form can change a little bit. So you should probably get reanalyzed every once in a while.
So whatever part of the world you guys are listening from, go to your local running store where there's people there, and that's their job. That's what they do for the living, is they watch people's feet and look at shoes all day, and you'll get a level of expertise just about in any community in America that you won't get online. So that's certainly worth checking out.
And so before we let Nick go and actually go to bed, since he does work overnights, again, this is this is what you got, a personal gait analysis by Cody today. So we appreciate Cody coming in, and we also appreciate
It, Cody.
Nick
It
being
was
willing to run on the street and let people wave to all our coworkers.
See all the coworkers coming in. Yeah, they were like, "What the heck is going on?" Oh yeah, baby, nice and smooth.
All right, Nick, I know you're tired, so thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us for your check-in today. You go to, don't forget, you can follow Nick and all of us on Strava, our group, a virtual running group where we give Nick all the love. I said you ate those hills for breakfast.
Oh, I loved it. I loved
mean,
it. I think my mom joined, and she's like,
Oh,
"I'm so proud of you."
good.
I'm like, "Oh, no."
Harry,
Here we go. I got all
that's
the
okay.
moms.
My mom joined too.
Yep.
And Cody's mom's in the studio right now. So
Cody's mom's right over here, and my mom is
it's the Moms
watching.
Club on
Yes.
Strava right now.
We got to start somewhere. We'll start with moms, and we'll spread out from there. So
And
thanks
whoever
for-
joins, I'm following too. So I'll
right.
follow your journey as well. So
All
it'll be
right,
fun.
thank you.
Awesome.
So,
Two more
guys.
hill repeats this week, Nick.
I'm
Two
excited.
more.
So that makes 8.
8.
Perfect.
all right.
All right.
All right, guys. Take care. I'm going to go hit the hay. All right.
Okay.
Take care. Cody, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for everything. Guys, I'll see you.
All right, bye, Nick. Wave bye to the camera.
Bye, Nick. We'll see you next week, Nick.
All right. Take care, guys.
So,
Night, night.
So yes, night. All right. So what I wanted to talk more about now with just the two knowledgeable folks about about running form, because I do think that this is it's one of the things that I think people if they're not doing it correctly, they wonder how in the world you can get out there and run for so long. And
Yeah.
it's just such an important part. It's hard to, I know you can't do it from more virtually. You should analyze someone's gait so they know, but we just want to give some people some basic things to be thinking about while they're running.
Yeah. So Cody brought up a good point that I think a lot of people forget is it is like a fingerprint. Everybody has a certain gait. And I am also very tentative, especially my older runners, to switch that too much because your body adjusts to whatever you've been doing for a long period of time, and it can cause injury if you change things too much. So there are a few things that we like to talk about. Foot strike, cadence, which we talked a little bit about, alignment, which Cody talked a little bit, and arm swing and stuff like that.
So let's talk about, what does a midfoot strike mean? Why is that something that people should strive toward? I'll let you guys kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I'll let Cody talk about this too. It is a little bit of a different philosophy depending on who you talk to. But mine isn't so much midfoot strike, even though that is very beneficial. It's more landing under your hips, which if you're landing under your hips, you're naturally going to land on your midfoot. I don't like to say midfoot strike a lot of times because then people end up on the ball of their feet and they don't hit their heels. Right. So I like to say try to land under your hips, because if you're too far forward on your toes, which a lot of people do, they're not hitting their heel at all, and then you're not using your glutes at all. And so that's wasted energy. There are very good runners that do that, but they're not reaching their potential.
So Cody, why don't you kind of jump in there and say, why shouldn't you land on your heel more? Because that can, again, too much of a stretch out.
Yeah. So we often call that backseat running. So Western world, we're so good at sitting down that when we run, sometimes we still run like we're sitting in a chair. So we want to be tall and upright. And like, to elaborate on what Maria said, you don't want to throw your leg out too far in front of you because it's braking. Imagine you're driving your car down I-275 here in Tampa, and you're tapping the brakes 170 times a minute. Instead, if you land with a more compact stride, where think that your ankle lands under your knee. If you land like that, almost like a kid on a skateboard, you're scraping the ground from underneath of you. That way, it's almost like you're always on the accelerator, and there's less jarring, and you load your lower limbs, more efficiently. So some of the cues we tell people is, imagine you run in place for a minute, and then imagine you're kneeing a soccer ball, and then go forward. And people laugh at me, but it actually makes sense even if you're not watching. If you almost run like, to start, you run in place and then go forward like you're riding the world's tiniest invisible unicycle. So little bitty circular steps, and then open up that stride, but don't throw your leg way out in front, because what that does is it loads up your shin and what else? Probably your knees.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I'm trying to change somebody's stride, I typically give them drills because a lot of times a lot of my runners overthink things a lot.
What?
So, yeah. So if I tell them specific things that I want them to change on their form, they overcorrect. So I think what's worked best for me is to just, the scooter image is good when you're running, like when you're running easy or you're running on the track, just really picture yourself like with that scooter motion where you got one leg up and you got the scooter going like this. So you're and pushing the ground behind you.
Yeah, one of the things that I remind people is, especially if you ever think about trying to run fast, that the only time you're propelling yourself forward is when you have your foot on the ground.
Yeah.
So a long stride is not going to help in a long
unless you can
distance.
get it around in time,
yes,
right?
Unless you're elite, and that's nice. That's so
some
great.
of the elites can do a long stride and they can get it around it fast enough. Typically, we struggle with that. So a shorter, more compact stride, where you're moving your legs faster as opposed to stretching it out.
The world's tiniest unicycle.
But then, like what you said, like almost like I've seen elite athletes training on a razor scooter.
Yeah.
Because it gets hip extension behind you. We're good at swinging our leg out in front, and not as good as swinging it behind us. So what we tell people often is some cues to think about is the letter Q. So think when you're running, those of you at home, the two cues, quick steps and quiet steps. I think it's valuable to listen. Take your headphones out for a minute and listen to how it sounds. And if it's like really jarring or really banging, maybe stop, take a walk break, and start running in place, and then get back on your unicycle and get back on your scooter.
Yeah.
And ease back into it. Have you guys have probably heard of muscle memory? There's a couple different arguments about how long it takes for a new stride or an improved running form to get in there, but we think about 60,000 repetitions, which is somewhere around 40 miles, depending on how long your steps are. So that doesn't mean, a disclaimer, you don't have to go out and run 40 miles after you
No,
listen to this.
don't do that.
Maybe it could be 2 miles each run of practicing the quick and fluid running form.
Yeah, and I tell my runners to put a metronome on. Like really put a metronome on, put it on 180, and try to now if you can't keep a beat, this is a very bad idea.
I'm very bad at the beat, but I bet you can find one on like an app of some sort.
Yeah,
because if you're
they
running,
have a metronome app. They also have songs now that they put at 180. So if you go to Spotify, you can look up some songs that are 180, and that can help you. And then just think about that. That's less thinking, right? Because the goal to be a good runner is to think less. I think you want to think less, just and make everything be natural and relaxed. So fast running is relaxed running. So if you're all tense and you're like, I have to hit 180, that's never going to be good. So sometimes I have them put the metronome on like the last 10 minutes of their run, just when they're getting a little tired, and just match the beat.
And how do they figure out what their cadence is now? I mean, I know like my watch tells me, but what would be a good way if you don't have an Apple Watch or some sort of what would be is there a way for you to just...
You got a way, Cody?
Yeah. I mean, simply put, like you could count how many times in 1 minute while you're running. Like, so look at your thing, hit start, and how many times left arm, and then double that number.
Okay.
And for the average person, it starts around 80 times, which that would indicate 80 times 2, your cadence is around 160. Yeah. And you don't want to go to 180 overnight.
No.
You just want to think quick, quiet steps and gradually increase that.
And typically, like my easy runs are like 175, and then when I'm running fast, I'm almost always 180.
And it's interesting, Cody, that you mentioned the quiet, because I do think that means that you are lighter on your feet overall, and so you're not pounding your poor feet over and over by holding your whole body up. Again, going back to the alignment, going back to the arm swings, all of those things. Because as soon as when you get tired, you start to hear your feet more. Yeah. I think you've told a story about running a marathon.
I did a half marathon with a guy. Oh, he was behind me. And then he was just slamming into the ground. He was like pacing off me. And finally, like probably 4 miles in, I was like, dude, you got to be lighter on your feet, or if you're going to hang out with me, because I can't handle.
This is a stranger.
And I'm like, I'm never going to see this guy again. Right. And so then like 6 miles in, I'm like, he'd get quiet for a mile and then he'd get loud again. And I was like, buddy, you can't do this. Like and I'm trying running as fast as I can. I wanted to get away and I couldn't. And I was just like, but at the end, and he was like, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I was like, you were loud. And I was like, I didn't think I'd ever see him again. Turns out I go to a bar like probably 3 months later, and this woman comes up to me and she's like, oh, hey, coach, I really heard about you. I heard you're a great coach. I'm going to sign up for track. My husband met you at a race. I'm like, he did? He's like, yeah, you told him to stop being loud on the... And I was like, oh, no. So actually, I did meet him.
And his fate would have it. He was on the dance floor. He was really loud.
In all honesty, it was a hot day. And I think he probably just went out too fast. And it is hard when you're tired to keep your feet quiet. Yes. But if you start quietly, you typically will end quietly as well. So
to Cody's point, make sure
you're quiet.
Quiet, quick steps is good for you and all of your neighbors who happen to be running next to you.
And arm swing, like this morning on the track, I did my first track workout in a while. And I was just feeling sluggish. It's exactly the word it was. So I focused on my arm swing. I said, okay, because if your arms are going faster, your legs are going to go faster. And my arms didn't feel sluggish. So I'm like, your legs will follow what your arms do. So move your arms faster.
Move your arms faster. So, and I do think that people forget about your arm. And by people, I mean yours truly. I mean, all of a sudden, I'm like, why is this feeling so rough? And I realized my arms are just completely still next to my, I mean, not really, but, and then as soon as I start moving them just a little bit more, I mean, you're able to propel yourself a little faster and taking the weight, I mean, all the strength and stuff off of just your legs, correct?
Yeah, and you don't want to be tense in your arms either. You just want to, it's kind of like what do we say, chips to hips? Is that what we say?
Cheek to cheek. And
Cheek
hold
to
the potato.
cheek, hold it. You want to hold it like a potato chip, and you don't want to break it. So you don't want to be like, really grasping your arms, but you just lightly do it, and then and don't raise your shoulders up, because a lot of people, when they get tired, they get tense, and then they go up here, and then they're and that's wasted energy too. So we don't want to do that.
So again, so now I have a full shot of you. So you want your shoulders down to kind of show. And when
Yeah,
you say
shoulders
hold
down.
a chip, what do you mean,
I mean,
like not squeeze your hands
Yeah, you
together?
don't want to. I just say a chip because they can break easily.
Right.
Like, you just want to. You be nice and relaxed and keep them down. Kind of low.
But if you ever feel, I know, like I said, when I get tired, I do tend to just like forget about my arms, and they do tend to just hang.
And when you're tired, you can think about your arms. It does help. Move your arms faster. Your legs will follow.
Yeah, and then one thing we often tell people, if you're going fast, like in a workout or towards the end of a race when you just want to get to the finish line, we say cheek to cheek. So imagine your hand goes up towards your cheek and then down towards your other cheek. And
What cheek are you talking about, Cody?
The cheek on the backside. All right, cheek to cheek.
Front cheek to back cheek.
And that's just to make sure to remind you to move your arms. Is that what it is?
efficient form, like you shouldn't be coming across center line.
Okay.
And hands relaxed, wrists sort of straight. And then for most people, not everybody, but for most people, your fingernails might brush up against your clothes just barely.
Okay.
You don't want to be like, pledging allegiance, or if your right arm swings way to the outside, you'll notice your left leg slings way to the outside. They're contralateral. They actually control each other. So, and to prove a point, like you guys try sticking your hands in your pocket and running, and how hard that is. So arms are often neglected, or we just think about the swing forward. But when we say cheek to cheek, that also means drive that elbow back.
Also, when you're going in front of you, if you're running like this, your hips are going to turn with you, and that's wasted energy too. So you want to go forward. Everything we want to do in our form is forward.
Well, and that makes and again, it all goes back. I want to always bring it back to the run for fun, because if you're constantly tired, it's also not fun. So we want to use the energy in the right way, like going forward, not left and right, so that it just the less strained you are, the happier, the more enjoyable the whole
no running like
is.
Phoebe on Friends. Remember that episode?
Yes. Even though
it was cute.
It was cute. What else do we need to talk about with people? Things that before they go to a running store to get analyzed, that they can just, as they're out there, pay attention to their own running form. So we've talked about cadence. We talked about arm swing. Is there anything that they can do when you talk about landing underneath your hips? You do want to look down and not see your foot out in front of you. Like, what are some ways people can check themselves?
I like the idea of, imagine you're like, now 20 years ago there was an article in like a Runner's World or something that said, imagine there's a harness around your chest, it's pulling your chest up and forward. But I don't really agree, because now thinking back, what that does is it encourages the runner to arch their back. So imagine you have a belt buckle, and that's tied, there's a rope tied or a string tied from your belt buckle to the trees way along the horizon. So as you go forward, your hips, you run with your hips.
Okay.
And a lot of us, like I mentioned earlier, we almost run like we're slouched down or sitting back in a chair.
Very
or
true.
our hips would fall to the side like you're salsa dancing. So think stable hips and hips forward just a little bit. So when you warm up, do you tell people to kind of loosen up their hips first?
Yeah, I mean, I think doing some glute activation exercises or foam rolling your glutes can help. I like to tell people, try to think about one thing at a time. Like if every time you go out for a run, if you're working on things, your first run out, I'm going to think about all of my motion being behind me. I'm going to lead with my hips. Then the next one, I'm going to think about cadence. And then the next one, and then kind of rotate. Because if you're thinking about too many things at one time, it's just going to be overcomplicated and you're going to get frustrated, and then that's not fun. And we want to run for fun, right?
Run for fun.
So one thing at a time.
Yes. And because other than the two of you, none of us are getting paid to ride.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
guys are getting paid to help other people ride.
That's true.
And so it should be a hobby, and it should be fun. It should be just as fun as maybe if people want to go play, pick a basketball game or whatever. But for some reason, people just think that this sport shouldn't be
Yeah.
fun when it most certainly can be.
And remember, all of this sounds so intimidating. If you have never run before, this can sound so intimidating. And I will tell you, I've worked at St. Pete Running Company on and off for 8 years, and that there is nothing intimidating about that store. So come in, talk to people. We all want you to run. Anybody who's a runner wants other people to run. So try not to be intimidated by going to a store.
Yeah, typically runners are like the most inclusive.
Yeah.
Group. They don't care what you look like. And I remember thinking back, I was a college runner. I was 20 when I went in my first running store, and I was nervous stepping into that thing, and I was in the shape of my life. And so I never forgot that, and I always talk to our team about that. Like, make sure you're welcoming and inclusive and friendly, and I think that matters because running doesn't care who you are. If you're willing to just try and put one foot in front of the other, and don't compare yourself to other people. Right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't all have great stride like
Nick.
Yeah.
And that really was because I saw you, Cody, as you were you drew a line right over where his hips were on your video screen, and it was straight across.
Yeah.
And do you see that often when you see people running in? Is that about half and half, or
No, we don't see it that much.
Not so much, but that's okay. But some people are better than others. He had an athletic background
Yeah.
growing up, and that probably helps. But if you think about running, we've all run at some stage. Most of us have run at some stage, but very few of us have actually had any kind of instruction about how to do it. It's just something you go out and do. Whereas there's a lot of people who are great responders. You give them a little bit of cues, like what Maria was saying with the potato chips, or cheek to cheek, or quick steps and quiet steps, and they respond really well with just a little bit of guidance.
The other thing you can do is find a soft place, and after your run, find a soft grass, or I like to do it on a track because they usually have some kind of soft surface, and run barefoot. Do some strides barefoot because it's very, very hard to run incorrectly if you're in bare feet. We've taken
don't do long.
Don't do it because that got trendy, and then we got stress fractures and people got hurt, and so you do need shoes, but you can train your body like on tired muscles to go out and do some strides in bare feet, and that's really helpful.
Our track club does that after the workout.
Yeah.
So take our shoes off and run unshod through the grass. And to your point, like, you can't overstride because it really hurts. And
It hurts to land on your heels.
Yeah.
We have all those nerves and think of thousands of sensors down there at the end of our feet that tell us if something's not right.
And
so,
you have to run quietly because you're tentative. Like,
Yeah.
you're a little bit tentative. And that would be another thing to picture when you're trying to work on your form. Do some strides at the end of your easy run, do 25 seconds, and think about yourself in bare feet. How would I run if I was in bare feet? Just think about that. That'll make you lighter on your feet.
great advice.
Cody, I was listening to you say everything is, I don't know, what did you say? You didn't say counterbalance. You said, like, if your right hand is doing this, your left leg is.
Yeah.
So I just started running maybe a year or two into it, and what I recognized was not my knee, but maybe was like the side of my knee, the bottom side of my knee, and it was starting to hurt, and I could feel. It felt like things were rubbing into each other. And so I went to a sports massage therapist, not actually for that. And she got around to my right shoulder and she goes, that ball and socket is not is too tight. She's like, your other one was like nice and open and looked like this. And this one was like this. She was like, how could you maybe swing that right arm a little bit more? And like in 2 weeks, my knee that had been hurting, for months, just went away. And so I'm constantly, that's why I say I have to remind myself my right arm. She's like, I don't know which is which. If your shoulder is tight because your leg hurts, or if your leg is tight because, your leg hurts because your arm is tight. But just swing your arm and see what happens. And like, it was like magic. I never knew that. She's like, oh yeah, everything is connected, and it's usually counter connected.
Yeah, interesting.
Like a kinetic.
Yeah.
They used to call it a chain. It's kind of a kinetic web if you think it's all connected. And a lot of running injuries we see from the knees, it either starts downstream or upstream. So first and foremost, make sure you're wearing good shoes that are appropriately fitted to your body, and then worry about your hips. Kind of get on the foam roller, do some hip opening exercises, things like that. A lot of injuries we see happen between the butt cheeks and the belly button. Right? That's where they start. It might hurt in your Achilles tendon, or it might hurt in the
Yeah,
side
but
of
it
your knee.
stems from your glutes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Hips don't lie.
And the
Hips-
other thing is, like, I have one runner who has not textbook form at all. She has really crazy form. She runs tons of miles and she has never been hurt.
Yep.
And so many people say to me, why don't you change her form? And I'm like, hell no, I'm not changing her form. She's never been hurt.
Yeah. And she's
Like,
qualified for Boston?
Yes, qualified for. I'm like, we're not that is perfect form for her.
Yep.
Do not mess with it. If you're hurt,
Right.
then we need to change your form. If you're not hurt, don't mess with it.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel. We don't. I mean, obviously, if there's pain, we need to change
Right.
something.
Well, I do think that we will do, Cody and Maria, we will definitely do a whole thing on sort of this runner knee myth, because we were just kind of touching on it, that
Yeah.
just because you run doesn't mean you're going to have bad knees. In fact, it's very good for your knees, but we're going to have at some point, a whole episode on that, because I do get that comment just about on every one of these.
I think that needs to be a panel. We have to have a panel of
multiple people to explain that it's, if you have something wrong with your knee, that's one thing, but it may not be caused from running, and it may be caused from many other parts of your body. So just want to let everybody know, we know that there's the runner, what I like to call is the runner knee myth. It's just, it's not caused by running, but it is caused by maybe something else going on in your body. So we're going to talk about that. I just wanted to get that out there. I did want to show one thing real quick before we let everybody go. So for in the WFLA meteorologist, we had a secret Santa, and my buddy Amanda Holly got me, and she made me merchandise. Look at this.
So cute too.
So I got 2 little tank tops that say "Run for Fun" on them. I've already gone out for a run on the Riverwalk. And I passed a guy twice. Now, granted, this was really perfect weather one day, and I was out there, and it was cool and pleasant. And the second time I passed him, he was like, "You do look like you're having fun."
Yeah, I love that, Leigh.
Yes, I mean, clearly I was subliminally, not even subliminally.
Don't wear that for a track workout,
Yeah,
all right?
no.
Just kidding.
But it was. But I was like, you're right. On a day like this, it's easy to have fun, and I guess I had a perma grin on me, and I am just fine with that. I'm just fine with that. So thank you guys so much for being on.
Thank you, Cody. Thank you, Cody, so much.
Yes, I know Nick is, I think, really starting to understand, as someone who he was, he did athletics, but it was never running for just running purposes. And I think that he's really starting to really love it.
Yeah. Oh, he will love it.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait to see his progress throughout.
It'll be fun.
Well, you can follow him on Strava.
I will.
And you can join our WFLA Run for Fun group too, Cody.
Well, hey, count me and my mom.
And the
We're
mom.
We're in. We're in.
All right. Well, again, if however you're watching this, if you're watching it on YouTube, you can also then download it as a podcast and listen to it while you're running for some of these tips that Cody and Maria were so amazing to give to you. So download it as the podcast. We're on Google Play. We're also on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That's where we are. Apple Podcasts.
And also,
and
can you write us some reviews?
Yes.
Write us some reviews and tell us what you want to hear.
We have, so far on Apple Podcasts, we have 1 review. They said they were on episode 2. This was back in November, but they were looking forward to more. So
Okay, good.
So
Write
please,
us some
please,
reviews,
please.
and in your reviews, tell us what you want to hear, because
Yeah.
we will be glad to help.
all right, thank you guys so much. We'll see you next Tuesday, because if it's Tuesday, it's Run for Fun.
It is Run for Fun.